As I was making the Arctic Air Pure Chill 2.0 analysis, testing, review video, I discovered that I wasn't just testing two different samples of the same model, but really two different models. It kind of became a pretty lengthy video, and I decided I was going to remove most of the tangential discussion of the differences between these two units. Instead, thought I'd make a video as to what differences I found between these two. First thing is just the differences in the part numbers. The part numbers are different on the actual boxes themselves. The first one is this model number 21075, and it also has some other identifier on here that says AAPC, which I assume to mean Arctic Air Pure Chill, package 021121-400. Take that in for a second with the model number and the power rating of 5 volts, 1.5 amps to 2 amps. AC rating 100 to 240 volts, universal power. There's nothing else on the box that's really different. I'm just going to show you the whole box, so if you do catch something and you're like, look, no, this is what I found, then by all means share in the comment. But it looks pretty much the same, it seems to me, between these. The other box has the different model number on it. I thought made it the older version. There are a couple other things that point me in that direction. And that is that the model number is 21020, which is a lower number. You know, it's a big discovery. And that the package number is also same thing, AAPC PKG-02-1121-200. It's a lower number. This is the older version. Who knows? Maybe they're using two different manufacturers, contract manufacturers I mentioned. But other than that, that's the only real thing that separates these things from each other. From as far as the boxes are concerned, these are really all the same. So there's not anything different except on the bottom, where aside from showing this reference number, the model number, this shows AC 100 to 120 volts and a DC input of 5 volts at 1500 milliamps. Yeah, it's a little strange because this is an AC 100 to 120 volt rated product, and it ships with a power adapter that indicates that it is rated 100 to 240 volts. But that power adapter is rated differently as far as the current, which we'll get to in a minute. So let's get on with the boxes. So if you're just in the store looking for one of these and you see one and you want to know which is which, at least with these two different variations on the Arctic Air Pure Chill 2.0, that's what you'll see on the box as of the posting of this video. As far as the construction, this is where it gets to be a little bit of a back and forth. We'll talk about the fans. The one on the left, the one that was the first one that I got, actually has a fan that's marked Arctic Air Ultra Advanced. Who knows if it's just parts left over from leftover stock or what they were using, but it is marked that 12 volts at 0.35 amps, so less power output than what you find in this one, which is the second one that I got. Not only is it a different brand of fan, although I'm not sure, I don't feel any sort of impression that's molded into the plastic of the fan motor that's being covered up by the sticker on the left. So on the right, we have Power Year as the manufacturer of the fan, 12 volts at 0.42 amps, and it has a part number that is pretty much the same. It's PY1225H12S, and the one on the left is PY12025H12S. The fan blade pitch and everything kind of seems the same between the two. There's a shroud around both that looks pretty much the same. So the fans, one that's marked Ultra Advanced, one that's marked Arctic Air Pure Chill, and different power ratings. And as we saw in the testing with the second one, this one consumes a lot more power than this one does. This one used over 2 amps at 5 volts, where this was around 1.8 and maybe climbed a little higher than that. But this had a much more irregular power consumption than this one did. As far as lighting, when these units power on, it's interesting that they do have a bit of a different behavior when they power on. You power up the first one, the unit defaults to blue as its initial color. And on this second one, when you power it up, it defaults to like a teal, which is interesting. Other than that, the LED lighting inside there, the boards look pretty much the same. But yeah, there's that one difference. I don't think I tried on this one to see if I could get it to go into that different brightness mode. Let's find out. They also will not turn on their, well, this one's not plugged in, but they won't turn the light on without the unit being on, which I still like with that basin one that I tested last year, that where you could just turn that light on and it'd have like a night light without the unit even running, which was a nice little feature. I also noticed too that the way the USB-C plugs in on this left one, when you plug it in, it's not a very deeply recessed USB-C connector. It's like hanging out in the back, which is not great. So the second one leads me to believe like this is the revision, because it seats much more deeply and is flush with the back of this. Yeah, neither of them will allow you to turn the light on without the unit being on. Nope. Ultrasonic transducers is the next thing to discuss. The one that I purchased first, I described in the video that the left one seemed to have issues where it wasn't pumping with the same amplitude as the right one. This one still seems to have an issue where it was like an imbalance between the two, but it was less noticeable. So I'm not sure if they did something to improve that, but it was less noticeable on this. It didn't affect the measurements though. So what's interesting is that one would think that this one, with both spraying a little bit more evenly, that there would be more cooling performance, or it would be better. Again, it being so highly irregular, like I mentioned in the testing and review video, that it was really hard to kind of pin down specifically if there was any marked improvement. And I ended up running it over a much longer period of time than I would have done for any other evaporative cooler, because I was able to get consistent results, repeatable results, fairly quickly, where this one it took me much longer. Looks like this again might be the improvement or the revised version, or a different manufacturer took it over or something like that, because this just has 3 screws holding this assembly together, where this has individual screws for both transducers. The molding of this is different. The mold comes to a point in the back on the second one, just like a 90-degree angle, like the deflectors that were on the Arctic Air Pure Chill and on the Arctic Air Ultra, when the transducer was located at the bottom of the tank and then pushed moisture down, and then there was a deflector and airflow pushed it forward. Here on the first one, there's a bit of it's elongated. It's got a flat back. It's not triangular like this one is on the right, which is an interesting difference between the two. I mentioned the button silk screens. It was just these little things they bug me, even though it may not bug anybody else. But the silk screen finish on the first unit was just nicer and smoother than the finish on the second one. Maybe it's just ramping up manufacturing or figuring things out with whatever, that they just had that issue. But in fairness, this is the one that leaked and this one did not. So if it meant a little bit more of a rough button silk screen, then that's fine. But it is a difference between the two. Also, in the assembly, the first one I got is more of a matte white finish. It's not glossy, whereas the second one definitely has a glossier plastic on the sides, on the bottom as well. Like, it's just a much glossier plastic. The overall construction, there are some interesting things here. There's definitely screws in the first one I got. In the top, there's 4 screws going into the top housing. There's 4 screws in the back, but this one also has, this one has 6 screws. Interesting. There's 4 screws with washers. They omitted 2 screws. There's holes for 2 more screws, but they did not put screws in there. There's washers on the 4 screws holding, I think, this back panel together. This one has 6 screws holding the back together, but the top is just clipped in place. There seems to be a significant manufacturing differences between the two. It's leading to believe that perhaps a different manufacturer is making this. And I said in the first video that I thought this was a part number 4 of this particular, for the manufacturer of the ultrasonic transducer or something like that. But I'm seeing the same SY TVO3 and then a leading T1 and a trailing 1. I'm seeing it imprinted here on the side panels, which it wasn't imprinted anywhere on the first one that I got. So it seems like it's a different manufacturer, like imprinting perhaps different part number references on the molds that they're making. Interesting difference there. I'm also spotting there is some difference in the electronics. I'm seeing an electrolytic capacitor in one spot, and I'm not seeing it in the other. It's just not there. But this is the one that was a bit wonky. As far as the power supply, the regularity and fan speed, the one thing I wanted to do in this video was to test it with its own power adapter, the one that it came with, which is still in the bag. I don't think it's going to make a difference. If it does, I'll definitely put a note in the video description for the review clarifying that. But if I plug this in, let's just see how it behaves with its own power adapter and not using a USB-C to USB-A cable to a battery bank. We're just plugging it right into the wall. And this is with nothing in it, no water. Nope, same behavior. It's ramping up and down. And it seems to me like it's just an issue with the boost regulator, or that is boosting 5 volts DC to 5 but less than maybe 9 volts on the lower speeds, and then on the high speed it's bumping it up to perhaps 12 volts or higher, which I observed in the original Arctic Air Ultra. What we're seeing here is similar electronics just being reused. A lot of this is just being reused and repurposed from year to year with different features being added. The way that this thing is assembled looks very similar to the Arctic Air Pure Chill and the Arctic Air Ultra that preceded it. Just different things kind of being bolted on or snapped together that change the way that it functions, but it's not necessarily a whole redesign of the whole unit. They're making good use of, we have one design with a certain grill and we pop in a different fan or whatever, but keep reusing the same design and just making different changes. Make changes to the filters, make changes to other things to see what can perhaps improve performance or reduce costs. Or maybe as a happy accident, both. The power supply is what I wanted to talk about next. We have on the left the first one that I purchased, and the one on the right is the second one. And on the left, the power adapter says, again, leading me to believe this is the older one, that this says Arctic Air Ultra Advanced and gives a 5 volt output at 2 amps. Is manufactured in January of 2022. It seems to me, you can see the manufacturer. And this one, for the second one, is a different manufacturer. It says Arctic Air Pure Chill on it. Not Pure Chill 2.0, but Pure Chill is a different model number. Manufactured looks like 16th week of 2022 and is rated 5 volts at 1.5 amps. And we've seen this thing draw more than 1.5 amps. So I'm not sure if it's relying on this power supply limiting. Even when we ran it just now, it still made the same sound. So something is off internally. Anyways, that's the power supplies. Talk a little bit about the cartridges, which previously were called filters, but I would call them cartridges now because they really don't do much filtering. The difference between these two filters really comes down to spacing of the elements in this cartridge and the thickness of it. And by making it thinner, it's helping it evaporate more moisture a little bit more quickly than these thicker ones. And I think spreading it out also helped catch areas where the airflow was stronger, which is along the outer edges, especially on the left-hand side of these units. I think that's why this one perhaps didn't leak with this cartridge. It wasn't really anything else related to the unit. It was just the cartridge, especially when you're being told in the quick start guide to not use it without the cartridge or else it'll leak water onto your floor, which it's not onto the floor, it's onto whatever surface it's on. So that's really the major things that I saw. There's one more thing that kind of popped up, is that one unit says Pure Chill, Arctic Air Pure Chill, model number 21020, and this one is Arctic Air Pure Chill 2.0. This is the one that leaked. So I'm wondering if this might be the newer one, and it's just they had these and they're still making them for some reason. I don't know. This one also has a QC pass sticker on it. This one does not, so I don't think it passed its quality control, perhaps why it leaked. So yeah, a lot of stuff that's different here. There's also differences in the patents. Like there's a patent D852340. Here it's patent number 10,712,029. Just like there's so many used only with this charger type. This is the different charger type. It's associated with the particular ones that come with it. They say to only use it with that, but it's a USB-C plug, so you can use it with whatever USB-C thing you want. However, in my testing, I was not able to get it to work with any USB-C to USB-C device. So I'm plugging it into a power bank that supports USB power delivery over a variety of different voltages. And also it has the secondary mode, which is the 5 volt at 2 amps, and nothing, won't turn on. Let's try this one, nothing, won't turn on. So it's all USB-A to USB-C that works, which is bizarre. It's a very strange, kind of a bummer. It kind of defeats the purpose of really having USB-C to some extent, but here's a USB-C to USB-A. I plug it in. Obviously this is only wired for the 5 volt to 3 amp, and on any USB-A port it will work just fine. And same thing with this one. They didn't quite configure this. I think they didn't configure this to use really USB-C at all. It's just using that connector and wiring it in that 5 volt 2 amp configuration, which I don't think it's a compliant USB-C configuration. It just has a USB-C port on it. If you're looking to be able to use this with a USB-C to USB-C cable, it's not going to work, at least in my testing, with a variety of power banks, battery packs, a variety of different adapters. The only thing I've been able to get it to work with is USB-A to USB-C, which is better than having that proprietary DC barrel jack port that I had to hack a cable together to get it to work. That pretty much sums up all the differences between the two. I don't think there's much more to cover, but I did want to spend time going over the differences because I knew that with that other video, it was just, I didn't want to spend the time in that video talking about all the differences that I had found because I wasn't expecting to find any differences. There's quite irregular, and I guess I should clarify irregular. It's more about uneven cooling. With this second one, it's irregular because the fan speed kept varying, so it was hard to measure the fan speed reliably at any speed selection and to be able to repeat that. So if they fix that issue and the fan speed were to become steady again, like this first unit, I might remove that irregular description. But uneven was on both units. Uneven, you'll see here in the infrared thermography video, the cooling is limited to this like upper right corner. And it's just kind of a bummer because the other units, the Arctic Air Pure Chill and the Arctic Air Ultra, really had much more uniform cooling across the entire vent on the front. And there were definitely areas toward the edges with those where there was warmer spots, but it had a wider area and provided very useful cooling. And so what that result basically is that even though this might feel cooler to the touch, the performance is the same on both these units as the previous year's Arctic Air Pure Chill. And I will go into details on that in the next video where I talk about testing and how I actually tested these units, what goes into it, what things do I use, how am I getting the numbers that I'm getting. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Take care.